Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. Today we're going to talk about an interesting story that happened to me yesterday and today. And the topic is be careful of who you piss off on the way to the top. I've spoken about this a lot on this podcast. My experience of when Elixir first came out and the way that was a really interesting observation of how we as an industry tend to not embrace innovation. And so Elixir's 4 years old this year. And when it first came out, there was a lot of pushback from this industry, mostly from people who I didn't know and from people that I did know. But there were, as you can imagine, horrible things being written on the internet about me and about the product. And, it's all about the journey. And my experience in the music industry had taught me never feed the trolls. One of my songs was shortlisted for the Twilight soundtrack. And you've never met a more opinionated group of people than Twilight fans. And so, of course, when the news came out through MTV Hollywood that one of my songs was being considered, the internet had to have its say, and the track was getting played millions and millions of times on other people's YouTube videos, and everybody had an opinion about whether it should appear on the soundtrack or not. And it was horrible. The things that people say are just bitchy and for no reason. It was an interesting time on the internet back then, but it really did teach me to never feed the trolls. You can observe. I tend to not read comments unless I've asked for engagement. But people's opinions are people's opinions. I'm getting to my point. So when this came out, there were a number of people who happened to say horrible things about myself and about Elixir on the internet. And the thing is, our industry is so incestuous that we tend to, even if we don't know people personally, it comes around. The journey is not stagnant when you're having a professional journey or a business journey. And so one of these people, I witnessed a conversation that this person was having with other people on the internet, having not even tried Elixir, but it was just some horrible shit that was being said. Funnily enough, yesterday I received an email from the publicist of the company that this person I thought still owns, but it turns out that this person is no longer one of the owners of this company, but this person was definitely a co-founder of this company and was horrid towards me at the time. And so when the publicist said to me, this is what, we'd really like you to have these guys on the podcast. Your audience is exactly who we want to appeal to as a brand, and we would love to get our message out to your audience. Love your podcast. And the publicist was so lovely. So lovely. So lovely that I wish I could say who it was. But I won't, because I don't want to reveal the name of who this brand is. But because she was so lovely, and because I am pretty much have worked my whole way through, I hate to admit this, but it traumatized me in my professional journey, the way that the industry kind of attacked, and I wasn't prepared for it. But good to say that I've almost worked my way through a lot of that trauma. And these things do traumatize you. Like, don't kid yourself into thinking like, you can just take whatever's going to be thrown at you. You don't know if you can take it or not until people do start coming at you. And I wasn't as prepared as I thought, mostly because I didn't think that that's what the reaction was going to be. But anyway, so instead of just sending an email back saying, oh, thanks, we don't have any room on the podcast, we're fully booked till the end of this year, or something like, yeah, no, they're not really the kind of thing that we want to be representing right now on the podcast, blah, 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 blah. I asked her if I could give her a call, and I was very frank with her about why I didn't want to have this brand on the podcast, and she was highly apologetic about what had happened and mentioned to me that that co-founder is no longer a part of the business, and that they were, they didn't hold those opinions. And how could she know? She doesn't know if they hold those opinions or not. But, I'm sure that given that they are aware of the misgivings of previous ownership, I'm sure that this is not the only instance of that has happened, and that they need to clean up. But one thing that I took away from this was no matter how well you're doing today as a brand owner, as a business owner, as a professional, as an Insta-famous world champion winning latte art champion or barista champion or whatever, no matter how well you're doing, always be humble. Always be gracious in the way that you treat other people, because you're completely unaware of where those people you're shitting all over today are going to be down the track. Nothing is stagnant. Everything's always evolving and moving, and the smart people are always growing and opening their minds and trying to be better professionals and better humans than they are today. And those people that are focused on that are always going to keep building and growing and pushing forward. And the people who aren't, I feel that the time when shitty humans did really, really well, in our industry in particular, is going to become a thing of the past. I think that our industry is so saturated that we're going to reach a point when, I'm trying not to sneeze, which is why I keep rubbing my nose. I'm sorry if you're watching this on video and you're wondering why I keep doing that. But we're getting to a point where people are going to have to get much more selective about the businesses that they support, only because it's so flooded and everyone's doing so much of the same. And I think that the thing that people are looking at is integrity. I think a lot of people are looking at integrity of people and integrity of product. And excuse me. Excuse me. This is what happens when you go live. I think that what happens is that if you're a shitty human, people are going to remember how you've left them feeling. And you can only you can only hide being a shitty human for so long. And people will always remember how you treated them. They may not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you treated them and left them feeling. So with every single interaction that you're having, and professionals do this, professionals focus on how they treat every single person, and they're mindful of conscious engagement. They look people in the eye, they're present, and they listen. They're not assholes, they're not inconsiderate, and they're not self-serving. With every interaction that you have, move in a way that would make you proud of who you are today if you were looking back at yourself in 10 years' time. Because if you can be that person, your professional career and your business career are going to flow beautifully when it comes to the way that people see you. You're going to have hiccups all the time, trust me. You will. But you won't have hiccups with regards to the way that people see you. You will learn how to navigate the challenges that are presented to you in that way. This was a really big learning experience for me in the sense that it gave me a sense of peace in knowing that the work that I've been doing on having boundaries in my professional life and my personal life have liberated me in being able to say, this brand was not kind to me in my past, irrespective of who the owners were, but this brand and the legacy of this brand was not kind to me as a professional. And my over empathy would typically disregard that and be like, oh no, it's okay. You want to bring this guy on the podcast. It's so lovely that you asked, and etc., etc. But learning assertiveness this year and learning where my boundaries lie have empowered me so that when this has come full circle, and because my podcast is moving along, it's empowered me to be able to say, I'm going to stay staunch to my boundaries and I'm not going to support this brand. And those that are listening that are like, well, you should support every brand, you know, we're a culture-driven industry, etc., etc. No. This brand didn't treat me well, and I'm really comfortable with the fact that if you don't treat me well, I'm not going to bend over backwards for you. But if you do treat me well, you're going to give me a reason to want to treat you well. And that's an exchange that I can get behind and that I can back. And it's a value system that I feel comfortable with because I've gone to the effort of defining it and I can buy into it. It makes sense to me. On that note, have an amazing rest of your day. Peace, love, and peanut butter.